he treats you the way he treats everyone else. And that can be one of the most devastating things to feel if you're in love, right? It can be so painful to be treated just like everyone else. So, happy to see others fail. Okay. Hey everyone, I'm posting this on a throwaway. Hope that's okay. Totally fine. So I have this guy in my class whom I have feelings for, but he's straight as an arrow and I'm a guy. Of course, I won't tell him about my feelings, but we are very close friends, and it has become really draining. He's the kind of guy who walks into a room of strangers and befriends them all within 5 minutes. It has become so bad that I'm actively avoiding school since he always comes and sits next to me. And recently we had tests which he bombed thanks to a blackout, and I was really happy about it. I don't really know how to feel about it, but it feels like he's hurting me by sitting next to me, and I dislike him for it, but he doesn't know about it, so I can't blame him, and that's only adding to the frustration I have towards myself. But I don't want to ruin the friendship we have. So let's try to understand, where does happiness from seeing others fail come from? Okay? So where does delight in another human being's suffering come from? So this is actually, turns out to be somewhat simpler than you may expect. Okay? No, it's not envy, it's not insecurity, it's not jealousy. What is the root of all that stuff? Who do you want to hurt? It's the people who hurt you. It's that simple, right? So if you look at some of these things like, if you look at like toxicity, right? Like where does toxicity in its most fundamental form come from? It comes from like hurt. So like we have this circuit in our brain, right? I don't know exactly what circuit it is, but I'm sure it's there because it's conserved across the human race. Where if you hurt me, I want to hurt you. That's how we respond, right? So like we've evolved because like if you look at like, animals fighting over territory, it's like we're going to, like if you're going to cross into what's mine, I'm going to repel you and we're going to fight. We're going to joust. We're going to do whatever. So human beings have like this retaliatory mechanism. And so like that was one thing when we were like animals fighting over territory, but now human beings, it's changed. Like what is territory? What is hurt? What are we entitled to? What's mine? What's yours? And so what I've seen working with a lot of people who are like very angry at like other people. So I've worked with a fair number of incels at this point. So that I think they fall kind of in this category, right? Where a lot of them, like they have a lot of hatred. And it's not just incels. I work with people who have like strong political beliefs. And what I tend to find is that like when someone with strong political beliefs has hatred towards something else, a certain amount of it is like conditioning and indoctrination. And then like a certain amount of it is like hurt, right? And we'll see this like kind of all over the place where generally speaking, in my experience, people who delight in the suffering of others are usually people who have been hurt themselves, right? Even if you like look at movies, like if you look at a movie where, there's justice in the end and boy, does it feel good when the hero beats the bully, right? And like the bully's like humiliated. Like it feels so good. Like, why do you think it feels good universally? Like, why do movies like that succeed? It's because we can empathize with that character. We know what it's like to be hurt by someone. And we know how good it feels to, like, hurt them back. To win. Sometimes we call this justice. Right? So, like, we have a word for that. But I'd say even deeper than that is, like, a sense of, like, justice, karma, but like if I get hurt by you, I want to hurt you. And we see this a lot in relationships too, right? Like when one partner, let's say like is unfaithful to the other, like to make it even, like I want to make you feel the way that I feel. It doesn't have to be with a lack of faith. It can be like any kinds of other things. If I feel emotionally neglected, I'm going to like act out and make you feel bad too. So human beings in general, so I choose to believe this. There's certainly people who are, a little bit more on the sociopathic side, conditioning. There are all kinds of other reasons why human beings hate other human beings. It's not exclusive to this. But generally speaking, I'm a psychiatrist and I work with a sample size of like one person at a time. So what I've seen in 80% of cases, if not more, is that most people who are angry and feel satisfied when they see someone else get hurt, it's coming from they themselves being hurt. Right? Because like if you think about it, when you see someone get hurt, our usual reaction is like compassion and empathy. So what gets in the way of our usual reaction? It's us being hurt ourselves. And so what do you do about this? I'd say the first thing is to kind of acknowledge, right, that this person has like hurt you in a lot of ways. And I don't know if you sort of recognize that, and you may have trouble admitting that someone has hurt you if they've done it unintentionally, right? If the person doesn't know that they're hurting you, you don't want to blame them for it. Like, it's fair to say it's not really their fault, but it also still causes damage, right? Like, if I'm walking around and I've got like, I'm trying to figure out what the right analogy is, but I can cause inadvertent pain to people, and it may not be my fault, but the pain still exists. The hurt still exists within you. And I'd kind of ask yourself, how do you feel when this person walks into a room and makes tons of friends? What do you feel in that moment? I know it sounds kind of weird, but like, really pay attention. Because I'd venture it's one of a couple things. One is that you wish he would make friends with you, right? You wish that the attention that other people got, that the way that this person was like acting so friendly and like laughing with that other person, like you want to be that other person. And you blame him for not letting you be in the other person's shoes. Because it sounds like you've got feelings for him. Like, you want to be the recipient of that intention. Like, anytime you look across the classroom or whatever, and you see him like laughing with someone else and like patting him on the back, you're like, I want that. I want you to do that with me. I want to be part of that interaction. And so it's your yearning for that and your inability to be a part of that probably hurts. And then you kind of like subconsciously you blame him, right? You're kind of like, why don't you do that for me? And then there's a lot of other stuff that kind of goes into that where like you want to be a part of that interaction. Maybe you envy him in some way, right? Maybe you were like, oh, if I was like that friendly and that awesome, if I was that likable, then people would like me. Like, I'd be the one who walks into the room and then everyone would want to be my friend. And if everyone would want to be my friend, maybe someone would be attracted to me. And then maybe I could be with someone. Maybe if I was as friendly and open, as likable as that guy, he would like me. So I think that there's a lot of different stuff that could be going on here. And I think at the end of the day, you really have to pay attention. If you feel happy when someone else gets hurt, schadenfreude, right? There's a word for it. This doesn't feel to me quite like schadenfreude, but I think there's more here. But I really think a lot about, what this, what you feel. Like, so this person says, when this person sits down next to me, let me find the exact phrase. But it feels like he's hurting me by sitting next to me. So I'd really try to understand that. I think you've got, the beginning of the thread, and I'd follow that thread. What hurts by him sitting next to you? What hurts? Because it could even be something like, that he treats you the way he treats everyone else. And that can be one of the most devastating things to feel if you're in love, right? It can be so painful to be treated just like everyone else. Be a little bit compassionate towards yourself, be a little bit understanding towards yourself, and really pay attention to like, what is the nature of these feelings? Bring awareness to them. And as you bring awareness to them, you'll be able to start to process. You'll be like, okay, that's what it is, that I really do want him to treat me differently. And then once you realize that that's where the hurt is coming from, you can start, working on it. Go see a therapist, do some journaling, go for long walks, maybe talk to people on Discord, work with a coach. And I think that's where you gotta look at, are you envious of the people that he gives affection to? Are you envious of him? Do you think that if you were more like him, he would spend more time with you? And then the third thing is, are you really upset that he does treat you like everyone else because you don't treat him like everyone else? Because that certainly sounds unfair, right? Because you're treating him a certain way in your mind, but he's not treating you the same way. So there's like an imbalance there. And this is where it gets further complicated because you can't really blame him for that stuff. And if you can't blame him, then you feel stupid and you feel guilty and you feel like, if I can't blame him, I shouldn't feel this way. And so you disregard all of your feelings instead of like accepting them and owning them. Can this apply to friends too? Absolutely. Doesn't have to be love.